Just a quick reminder, the Behind the Goals podcast is available every Tuesday with me, Rachel Corsey, and me, Leanne Crichton. It's your one-stop shop for our take on everything that's happening in the world of football. Just head to BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts and search for Behind the Goals.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. It's the 6th of October, and since it's Friday, we will preview the weekend's matches in the Premiership. I'm David Currie, and my partner in podcasting today is the one and only Mr. Rory Loy. Rory, we won't be able to avoid talking about Scottish clubs in Europe altogether, but we will when considering tomorrow's Edinburgh derby, because Hearts and Hibs were knocked out in qualifying. It's a derby debut for the man from down under. That would work if he wasn't born in Leeds. But you get my drift. Let's hear from Nick Montgomery, the newish Hibs manager, on the eve of his first derby since coming to Scotland from Australia.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Obviously heard a lot about it, and I understand what a derby means for the fans, but yeah, just looking forward to it. Can't wait to get there tomorrow, and yeah, for that whistle to go. It's definitely something that I'm looking forward to. Yeah, you know, as a player, it's a big one for the fans. Obviously, the build-up going into the game there's a lot of talk about it. So yeah, it's a lot of emotion, and it's a game that everybody looks forward to on the calendar. So ultimately, at the end of it, it's 3 points at stake. So nothing changes there, but yeah, it should be a good crowd and a good atmosphere, and it's definitely one that you look forward to. It's not something that is going to be a shock to me. Played in some big games before and big atmospheres, and I know it's going to be a really good one, and the players are looking forward to it as well.
What have you made of Hearts this season?
Yeah, they're a good team. I know some of the players there. They've got a couple of Australian boys, but yeah, they're a good team. And yeah, to be honest, just concentrate on us. But it's going to be a good game.
Rory, I read with interest that Nick Montgomery brought in a motivational speaker to embolden the players. Did they need it ahead of a derby?
Well, they shouldn't. They certainly shouldn't need it ahead of a derby. However, whilst that may not be my cup of tea personally, I would never criticise a manager for his own beliefs and his own way of doing things. And, good luck to him in terms of the motivational speaker. And, we'll see how that pans out. However, I can tell you with some degree of certainty that going to Tynecastle, if you can't get up for that one, regardless of whether it's a derby or not, then, you're in the wrong sport, because it's a fantastic venue to play at. And on Derby Day, it is especially intense. So he's had a pretty solid start, is what I would say, to his tenure at Easter Road, Nick Montgomery. But tomorrow will be a big challenge, and the biggest challenge of all in terms of the rivalry that Hibs and Hearts have.
And you watched Hibs last week, weren't you? I think you were expecting a goal fest against Dundee, and it ended up 0-0.
It did. I don't know how, to be fair, and I think the sports scene highlights would back me up on that one. Hibs had multiple chances. To be fair, Dundee had a good few chances themselves. It was a good game of football. I thoroughly enjoyed it. As 0-0's go, it was one of the most enjoyable ones I've seen. So I do expect chances to be created by Hibs tomorrow. However, with Hearts being at home, they've had a few good results themselves of late. And that's eased the pressure a little bit on Stephen Naismith and his backroom staff. So it's all to play for tomorrow, and it's a difficult one to call.
Well, I'm going to ask you to call it later on, Rory, as you'd expect. But I was thinking maybe what the players and staff of both sides needs is someone to tell them to keep the heat. Because the last time the sides met, there was a bit of a post-match dust-up, if you remember, in May, and even a hot water bottle being thrown, some unseemly afters in that one. And the game before that, 10 yellows.
Yes. I mean, the game's obviously moved on quite a lot from boots and other things being thrown. If it's hot, what a hot water bottle was doing, I'm not quite sure.
Well, it's Scotland. You need a hot water bottle in April.
Well, this is true. I have to say, and this is absolutely no offence or to Nick Montgomery's detriment whatsoever, but I'm a little bit disappointed Lee Johnson's still not in charge, because that was quite entertaining, the whole back and forth after the game from Stephen Naismith and Lee Johnson, who came out and publicly said that they didn't like each other. So that would have been an interesting one. However, Nick Montgomery is in charge. He was a bit of a bruiser as a player himself, but Stephen Naismith wasn't shy in getting stuck in either. So I certainly expect both sides to be hell for leather when it comes to the tackles and when it comes to the intensity of the game. But you're absolutely right in terms of keeping the heat, as you put it. You do need to get the ball down. You need to play, and you need to try and get a foothold in the game, which can be difficult in a derby, and it can sometimes take 10, 15, 20 minutes even for the game to slow down. But you need your midfield to get their foot on the ball and make things happen and play, and the players who can calm themselves down and play their game, so to speak, will have the better of the match. But as I said, it's quite difficult to foresee which side that will be at this moment in time.
Stephen Naismith's been in charge of Hearts for a couple of derbies now, played in a few more than that though. He's still looking to taste victory in the derby as a boss. Let's hear from him.
It's an exciting game, as you say, and one that the two teams are coming on the back of some decent results, getting through in the cup. So first of the season as well. So it's a fantastic game to be involved in, and one that hopefully we can come out on top. I'm comfortable that the majority of our group have experienced it a lot and understand what it is going to be like. The atmosphere will be incredible. It'll be a full house. Obviously the two sets of fans there, and there's optimism for both sets. So it's dealing with that, but then also having the calmness during the game to stick to the game plan and get the better of your opposition. That's the key factors. We've won 3 of our last 4 and we want to continue that run. So the main objective is to get the win. It then lets you go into the international break in a really positive mind frame and push on to what's going to come, the exciting games we've got in the next month as well. They're a different team. I think they play a much more aggressive attacking style than they did before. And in the 3 or 4 games that we've watched, he's definitely come in with his own ideas. So it's definitely a different challenge to what Hibs have been over the last couple of years under the previous manager. So yeah, like I said, I think it'll be an entertaining game because it's two teams that want to attack.
So how would you characterise this encounter, Rory? Is it a kind of mid-table, Hearts in 4th, Hibs a couple of points behind them, but both sides very much with aspirations for the top 3?
Yes, they do. I think the two clubs, along with Aberdeen, will be vying for 3rd come the end of the season. I think the pressure's relieved a little bit on Stephen Naismith, and from him on a personal note, not Hearts as a club. Of course, the fan base wanted to get into Europe and all the things that come with that. But given Stephen Naismith is now the manager, he's the kind of the sole focus, and they can put this debacle of who's the manager, who's not the manager behind them, and he can move on solely as the figurehead of the club in terms of management. So it's made a difference in the last few weeks, and I think if he was to win tomorrow, the pressure would relieve, maybe not entirely, but a good bit. And for Nick Montgomery, it'll be a baptism of fire. He's had a few tricky fixtures to contend with. However, none of them quite like the fixture tomorrow.
So you're saying both these sides are going to be competing for 3rd. Is that because you've got St Mirren nailed on for 2nd?
Well, I do believe that, the way St Mirren are going, you never know. That could happen, and we'll see if Rangers can sneak into the top 6.
What I'm going to do now, Rory, as you'd expect, I'm going to solicit a prediction from you. Just the scoreline. You don't need to bother about the number of yellows.
Aye, well, of course, as long as you promise next time I'm on, like you've done today, not to bring up the one result I got wrong from my predictions last week. No, I think over the last couple of seasons, there's been times where the derby has maybe not delivered in Edinburgh in terms of goals that you expect, although the entertainment's been there. So let's hope tomorrow bucks the trend. And I've got a sneaky feeling Hibs might just do it by a couple of goals to 1.
All right, okay, Rory, let's move on to champion Celtic at home to Kilmarnock. Quite a week for Celtic. Won 2-1 thanks to a last gasp goal, as we like to call them at Motherwell, then lost in the Champions League 2-1 at home to Lazio thanks to a stoppage time goal. Just when it looks as though Celtic are getting right into their rhythm, something kind of happens to upset it a wee bit.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. You mentioned the 2 fixtures there, David. psychology, and psychologically, the mindset the players are in domestically compared to Europe. I do believe, when that equaliser goes in from Motherwell, Celtic still think they can win that game, even with 2 minutes to go. And it shows. Whereas, you fast forward to Wednesday, do they believe they can go on at one each and win the game? Is there always that seed of doubt in their mind that they're maybe going to concede? And it's amazing how, these things can change. So I'm a big believer in, whilst I may not be the motivational speaker type, I do think psychology and psychologists do have a role within sports, certainly, but, in football as well, because it's been said a million times over, I don't think Celtic are far away. I think there's only so many times you can say that before it's a bit of a broken record, and you need to look at things and go, right, we've been saying this for such a long time now that we really, really need to take a look at why we can't quite go over the line. Some people out there think, well, when one victory comes, it'll be like London buses. Not so sure myself. Was I surprised to see that winner go in? Probably not. And that's nothing to do with the basis of play, because Celtic were far better than Lazio in the second half. Just to do with that history recently, and like I said, the psychology swing, and that I do believe that Lazio felt they could win the game. I don't know if Celtic really believed that they could, which is a shame for Scottish football, but I do think they've still got a chance of finishing third in that group if they can pick up that elusive win at some point.
Well, when you're talking about history, the recent Scottish football history points out that Kelly have already beaten Celtic this season in the League Cup at Rugby Park, albeit they've beaten Rangers in the league. What do you reckon to their prospects going into this one? Because they've only won that one game in the league.
Yeah, they have. And I think in terms of the setup for Derek McInnes tomorrow, I'll be at the game covering it for Sports Sound. I think the team almost know what they're doing. Today's Friday, they'll be out on the pitch this morning. What they'll be doing is they'll be going through their shape, their set pieces, their corners, their set pieces. As I say, and I think with clubs like Kilmarnock, when the onus is on you at home against Ross County, St Mirren, whoever it may be, to go and win a game of football, it's almost more difficult than, going through the practicalities of a 3-5-2 and moving with the ball, shutting down space, getting close to opponents. It's more robotic than it is, down to the individual to come up with something special and a bit of flair to win a game of football. So, I know they've scored a couple of goals in the Rangers and Celtic games at home, but I just think that these games suit Derek McInnes because his team's well organised and things. I don't think they'll be able to see out 90 minutes without conceding tomorrow, and we'll lose the game. However, I do think that Kilmarnock have got as good a chance as anyone at going to Celtic Park and picking something up, like Stephen McLean's side obviously did early in the season. And I wouldn't bet against Derek McInnes at any point. Although I won't be betting tomorrow, I do believe Celtic will have a little bit too much.
All right, then let's move on to Dundee versus Ross County. 2 of the 4 teams on 7 points, meeting at Dens. Neither club managed to score last week, Rory, and they're averaging, in Dundee's case, a goal per game. Ross County, it's less than that, 6 and 7. Does that indicate a tight, tense, low-scoring game?
Possibly, but I think it's more the pressure of the fixture because the two sides will know exactly how big the fixture is. I was impressed with Dundee last week, and what I like, as I said last week about Dundee, is I think they've got goals all over the pitch. The midfield, the forwards, a couple of the defenders will chip in as well, and I think they'll have a decent season. The problem is with Dundee is accumulating consistently enough points to stay clear of danger. Before the tail end of the season. I don't think it'll necessarily come the end of the season be particularly pretty in terms of them staying up. Tomorrow is the type of game that Tony Docherty will look at and go, right, let's get the 3 points. We need to pick up the 3 points. They've been in a position to do that in these types of fixtures this season a couple of times. They get themselves 1-0 up against Kilmarnock, and then obviously the red card happens. They get back into the game. They get a point. They end up 2-0 up at St Johnstone, get pegged back to 2 each. So, if Dundee stay up this year, which I believe they will, I think we'll go on and learn from that next season with the squad. However, this season they've got to try and win these games at home if they are to avoid sweating come the end of the season.
Well, it's so tight in that not a team's right in the middle of the table that if there's a winner in this one, they could nose into the upper echelons, the top 6 of the table.
Yeah, they could. And Ross County have got the players at their disposal to go to Dens Park and win. I've been part of that fixture a good few times, and it's always tight and close and tense. So it's another one where I allude to the fact that this is probably another difficult one to call, but you just said there that the league is so tight and compact, and that suggests everybody's capable of beating everybody in and around those places in the league. So I think it'll be a score draw, and both teams will score, obviously. I think they've both got good managers, and I think they've both got good styles of play and good players on the pitch. I just don't know if they'll maybe cancel each other out slightly.
Well, the other match tomorrow, Livingston versus Motherwell. Now, it's maybe not the most glamorous of fixtures, Rory, but for me, it's one of the most fascinating tomorrow because Motherwell have been getting plaudits for the last 3 performances, but they never picked up any points. And Livingston struggling for wins, and their only win this season in the league has actually been on the road, albeit much is made of the home advantage they have. So it's not the box office game of the weekend, but I think it might be one of the toughest to call. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's very intriguing, I have to say. And Stuart Kettlewell's done a phenomenal job for Motherwell. And he said last week he doesn't want to keep banging that drum of we're playing well, but we're not picking up points. So I think tomorrow's a fixture to look at and go, right, this is where the winless run, despite good performances, has to come to an end. They're going to Livingston, who aren't in particularly great form, but the game may not suit Stuart Kettlewell's side in terms of how they like to try and play, getting the ball wide, getting the ball into the box, and that's not a detriment to David Martindale's Livingston, because I'm not for a second suggesting they simply want to battle and fight and that's how they win games, because it's not, and he's proven that over a long period of time that they're a good footballing side. It's more the pitch and possibly the fact that both teams aren't in great form. It may make for a kind of scrappy match. So we'll see how that one goes. But I do agree with you. It's very intriguing, and it's these types of games which, if you are to nick into the top 6 as a Livingston or a Motherwell, that really you need to kind of consistently win. Yes, you can lose 1 or 2 across the course of the season, but you're really looking to pick 3 points up so that when the big boys come along, and even if you do play well and you're not picking up points, you've got these to lean back on. So yeah, it is a very intriguing one. I'll be interested to see who comes out on top.
I'll be interested to find out who you think might come out on top.
I think it'll be 1-0 to Motherwell.
Very precise, very precise. We'll scoot ahead to Sunday's games. We'll get St Mirren against Rangers, 2nd v 3rd. Now, given the form of the respective sides here,
yeah,
which team do you think can be regarded as favourites for this one?
St Mirren.
Really?
Yeah. Rangers are in disarray, and they're not showing anything really to suggest that they can go to St Mirren Stadium. Show my age there. To St Mirren Stadium and win the game. Their new signings seem, to be fair to him, chips in with goals. He's got good work rate. Lammers, I think there's a player in there. My problem with Lammers is I think he's a luxury player. I think he's a 10. But in this day and age, with the way managers play, he's a high tempo, want to press the opposition, counter press, as they say. When you lose the ball, getting it back quickly. He's almost a bit of a luxury player. Slows the game down. He's got fantastic ability. I do believe that. I just don't know where he fits in the modern day kind of way that a Rangers would want to play. Dessers, for me, simply hasn't shown enough to suggest that he's a Rangers player. They look nervy at the back. Their best display came against Livingston in the Cup, where it took a controversial goal to get them 1 in front. And you look at it and, St Mirren, they're in great form. And, at home, they're a real challenge to try and beat. And I don't think there's anyone, if anyone said to you right now that St Mirren, if the game was played last night and you woke up and didn't know the score and somebody went, St Mirren won 2-1, I don't think you'd bat an eyelid. I don't think you would go, oh, really? That's shocking. Yet, of course, when one of the old firm get beat, you always take a moment to go, well, that's a poor result, obviously, and I wonder what the reaction is. But in terms of the actual simplifying it to, are you surprised that happened? I don't think there would be many people that would look at that and go, I never seen that coming.
So are you falling on the side here in prediction terms of a Buddies win?
Yeah, I think they'll win by the odd goal, yeah.
All right. I'm just saying, what would that do to Stephen Davis's ambition, if he has one, to get the gig at Rangers on a more permanent basis?
I don't think Stephen Davis will be considered for the manager's job, regardless of whether he'd won in Cyprus and he wins in Paisley on Sunday. I don't think so, and that's, again, no detriment to Stephen Davis. I think that, appointing a manager permanently after a couple of good results is certainly not the way to go. They need to sit down, they need to do their due diligence, and they need to really look through all the candidates, whether they want to try and source somebody that's somebody else that's not been mentioned, I'm not quite sure. But they need to sit down and they need to do the homework and get a manager with experience, a manager who's got a proven track record of success. They're difficult to find, but if Rangers want success with that current squad, that's what they have to get. So I think Stephen Davis, if he can go away from Rangers and get managerial experience and do well, I'm not saying that he may not have opportunities in the future to come back to the club, but at this moment in time, regardless of what happened in Cyprus, regardless of what happens in Paisley, I just don't think he'll be considered for the job. And also can I add that, if Rangers were to drop the 3 points on Sunday, I don't think it would do anything to Stephen Davis or Alec Ray in terms of how they're viewed by the supporters. I think that they're held in high regard, clearly, and I don't think that would change anything.
All right, let's move on to the final match of the weekend. Sunday, Aberdeen versus St Johnstone. The Dons disappointed with how things panned out in Europe in the Conference League, but unbeaten in, 4 games now. St Johnstone's still seeking their first win of the season, and they'll be bottom of the table, whatever the outcome on Sunday.
Yeah, I was up at Pittodrie last night. It was frustrating is a good word, because Aberdeen should have won the game. They deserved to win the game. They had the chances to win the game. Duke's a little bit low in confidence when it comes to being in front of goal at the moment, which is a shame, because if he wasn't, he could have bagged a couple last night. He had chances for Jensen. And overall, I thought Aberdeen were the better side. I really did. I think that when Connor Barron came on the pitch, they looked a different side in terms of the intensity of their play. Shinnie moved up one and was able to get involved in the play slightly higher up the pitch. McGrath was excellent. And overall, I think, I said on the show last night, as a passionate fan of Scottish football, you're willing them on, you're willing to win the game, and they're doing everything right, and they just can't get the ball in the net. But that is such a similar story for Scottish sides in Europe this season. So it was disappointing in terms of the result, but very good performance. I don't see any reason why they can't go to Finland and beat Helsinki in Finland after watching them travel to Sweden and play so well. So that'll be interesting to see how the European thing develops for Aberdeen. And given the players they've got at their disposal, I think they'll have too much for Stephen McLean St Johnstone. I really do.
Right, so coming out in favour of a Dons win in that one. Rory, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much. All the weekend's games covered, as you'd expect, in Sports Sound tomorrow and on Sunday. Don't forget Off the Ball tomorrow from midday, and I'll see you with Sports Scene results. And while I'm at it, we're streaming Glasgow City versus Spartans in the SWPL on BBC Sports Scotland, and the iPlayer, that's from 1:00 on Sunday. Take care.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.